Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are taking a look at a game that is actually not listed on Steam yet. Yeah, a game called Reign of Bullets. Reign as in with a G, as in like a king. And it's by Critical Bit, a kind of breakout new studio, doing a couple of things, and this is their kind of big deal right now. And like I said, it's not out yet, so any kind of weirdness or bugs that you may see during this video can be attributed to the fact that it is a beta pre-release build of the game. It is not currently finished yet. It's not an early access, and it's not going to be, as far as I know. It's just not quite out yet. And so, because it's not listed on Steam yet, I'm going to be linking you to the developer's actual site instead of the Steam page. And that also means I don't know exactly what the price is going to be, but that, again, will be revealed, I'm sure, on their site and everything. So, yeah, it is a shmup. Yes, it is a shoot-'em-up. And it's got a couple of pretty unique mechanics in it, and we're just going to get into one of the levels at first, and then I'll show you some of the more unique parts of the customization and things after a couple of levels, because they're pretty quick. So as you can see here, you've got your level select, and there are quite a few. There are 10 levels in each world, the last one being a boss, and these are meant for heavy replayability, because there is a loot system in this game, first of all, as well as a currency system for upgrades and bettering your loot, and a lot of difficulty settings. There's a lot of difficulty levels. I've been playing through just on the basic beginner level, which is just basically normal mode, but if you can see, it goes very high. You can go all the way up to champion. No, legend, actually. I thought champion was in this case, enemies have 51 times more health, but you also get 6 times more scrap, and you'll be finding better equipment as well, because the loot is very much based on a kind of a magic find almost kind of stat called luck. So yeah, there's actually a lot to it. The game has, right now, in the pre-release build, 4 worlds, as well as a survival mode. I'm sure that they will actually last you for quite a while, because there's a lot to do. Of course, getting the highest medals you can get, as well as much currency and loot, very important. So let's jump into level 21, the first of the high tide, kind of water-themed world, and see what it's like. The loading screens are these cute little Twitter look-alike things here. The story is, of course, not that important because it is a shmup, but it is there. And the first thing you may be noticing is the fact that the game has a rather striking visual design. It is quite pretty. It's got a very bright, nice color palette kind of animation style that makes it actually pretty pleasing to the eyes, and the effects are nice as well, with the flames and the lasers and the bullets and the explosions and the shininess. There's actually a lot to look at, and that comes into one of the things I like about the game the most, is just how good it looks. The backgrounds, for instance, have a lot of detail. Even though they're all the background stuff that's not really important, it still has a lot of detail put into it. You can see ships on the water and oil rigs and buoys and all kinds of stuff back there. And the level I was in, or the world that I was in before this, was desert themed, and you could see like giant sandworms in the background and stuff, one of which was actually the boss, by the way. And as you can see, it is, oh god, it is a scroller that goes right to left, not vertically. So a bit different for a lot of shmups. And you also have quite a range of the screen from top to bottom, and this is important because what factors into the score, the currency, and of course the ranking that you get, which also gets you extra loot by the end, is how many of the enemies you kill. And with a lot of screen space, that means that you could actually miss some because they're not on the screen, which is part of the gameplay. As you can see, if you go all the way to the bottom, you can't see what's on the very top. And so sometimes there are things on the very bottom of the screen, like trains in the desert or cars in the first world, which is like a grasslands. And I'm sure there might be some boats or something later on in this world as well. So that makes you kind of want to roam around the screen as much as possible to get a good reign of the various enemies that are going to be along the way. And as you can see, I've got quite an array of weapons on my little ship here. I'm pretty armed to the teeth, but you can actually get even more ridiculous than this, very easily, actually. And the controls are very simple. You can bind different controls, of course. I'm just using the mouse for movement, left click for firing all your weapons, and a right click for a shield, which is a very, very short-lived little shield kind of invulnerability shield type of thing, but it only lasts for less than a second before you upgrade it, and even with several levels of upgrades, it only lasts for 1 solid second, so you really have to time it, and then after you use it, it's on cooldown for a few. So, as you can see, this is how it works. I killed almost all of the enemies in the level. I must have missed one somewhere. And I had a good amount of my health remaining, so I got an A ranking, which gives me different rewards. If you get an S, you actually get a special reward bonus at the end, so you get more loot. And these are the items that I found during the actual level. So, you can find weapons, and these are upgrades, which again is a system I'll show you after one more. So, continuing on. Talk more about the gameplay. Well, I like the fact that they are introducing some vertical enemies now. This is the first world to do so. The other worlds, there were lots of enemy types, but there weren't any that went on the top of the screen like that to make you kind of move differently, save for the bosses, of course. And varying that up is actually pretty important. It's fairly nice. I also like that there's a good distinction between the background and the foreground. Very important for a shmup, especially with lots of bullets flying around, and rest assured, in the later levels, higher difficulties, and boss battles, there can be a lot of bullets. The sandworm in particular shot out a ton of green little acid bullets that were quite difficult to dodge at the kind of end limits of his health. Now, there appear to be enemies way down here, but I can't actually see them, which is weird, because usually there's all kinds of enemies on the bottom of the screen, and I'm seeing some health gauges, so I'm obviously hitting some, but I'm not actually seeing them right now, which is a bit strange. Also, on the earlier levels, you could actually grind your ship against the bottom, and it made a nice sound. I don't know why I liked that. So, there's a lot of enemy variety, which is also important for a shmup. You're probably seeing several types of enemies, but because I have a bit of a powerfully upgraded set of weapons right now, they're not staying on screen for too long. But there is a good amount of variety in enemies. There are large and small, everything from big battleships with multiple weapons to target, to kind of seeking missile firing ships, to little infantry guys that have a very rapid fire that don't actually even fire projectile style weapons. They just fire like these short range bursts, so you have to be really careful about getting close to them, and things like that. And now that they're actually varying the ways the enemies introduce themselves more significantly, it's a bit more worth pointing your weapons in different directions, which again is something I'll have to show you as soon as we get through this. Going to activate my shield so I don't take any damage and kill as many of those as possible, so I can get my bonus. And there we go, weapon reloaded and mission complete. So that's pretty much how the game goes. It's, I think, a simple shmup as far as the mechanics go, but it's very satisfying. So we're gonna go back to the hangar, and this is where it gets really interesting. So you have an inventory system. As you can see, I've got a bunch of loot, and loot does have a rarity attached to it as well. I've got common, uncommon, rare, and I even found this epic. Now, the thing I really like about the epics is they're kind of different versions of the weapons and actually have a different appearance. So that's this thing right here, which actually looks different from the blaster, which is obviously what it's based off of. It's just an epic version. It has some different characteristics and a different appearance, which I like very much. Now, also what I like very much is that the stat and upgrade system is not boring at all. That might sound weird, but it would have been very easy to make it so, because as you can see, every weapon has the same kind of range of stats. But those don't all necessarily make sense within the context of a weapon if they all did the same thing, so they don't. For instance, projectiles wouldn't necessarily make sense with a laser, so it makes the laser do something different than just fire multiple projectiles. It actually splits the beam. Lightning gun also has projectiles do a different thing. It actually is the number of charges that it can fire before having to kind of wait a minute. Basically, every one of these characteristics does something different depending on the weapon type, which is very, very cool. So that means damage isn't the only important thing, and there's actually a lot you can do, including the special one being pretty interesting, as well as splitting. A missile launcher that could, say, fire a fan of 3 missiles that then split once each into a big fan of 6 missiles. That's something you can very easily make with the crafting, or, well, upgrade system. It's almost crafting, because you can very easily change how these weapons really act by upgrading them. I like that. I like that a lot. I also really like the epic system, having different appearances for the guns and things. Very cool. Also, the art is nice. Again, as is pretty much the presentation style of this entire game, with its appearance and the art style, everything looks quite nice. So what I'm going to do is show you this. Now, you can salvage things for these gears here, which are your currency, which you'll use for upgrading your ship as permanent upgrades, as well as whenever you want to equip and upgrade to a weapon, you have to pay. So I'm going to salvage some of this stuff that I do not need. And then I'm going to show you the upgrade system. So if I salvage all of this, I do not want or need it for right now. But there is this missile launcher that I may want to keep, who knows. So what I could do is go to the upgrade system, and here are all the upgrades that I have, a crap ton. And whenever I click on one, it's going to show me what, in the context of that particular weapon, that stat does. So special on a missile launcher makes the explosion of the missile larger, which is always good to have in a missile launcher, I find. So I'm not sure if I actually... Alright, we'll use it. Hang on. Alright, so big explosion radius, a 4th level upgrade upgrades the stat by, of course, 4, and it also costs a lot to slap on there, but we'll do it. And different weapon rarities often have different numbers of slots for upgrades, also important to look out for. Let's see, fire rate is how many bursts it can fire, obviously. Let's see. Projectiles might be nice. Yeah, do that. Boop. Very expensive, though. So obviously I'm putting a lot of money into this weapon, but it should be good. And then, let's see, a missile can split, but this already comes with 3 splitting, so that's a 120% chance. So in other words, every missile is going to split once, with an additional 20% chance to split again. Very nice. Maybe, let's see, rotation speed times the missile finds a target, so they can sort of retarget themselves, because they're homing. Piercing, what does piercing do? That's the missile finds a target one. I probably don't really need to upgrade that. Let's see, speed might be nice, actually. Speed, let's give it a bunch of speed. Yeah, there we go. So now this missile launcher should be pretty good. So, when you actually go to equip something, you have to worry about your number of weapon slots. You only start with 1, but you can upgrade them very early on. So I'm going to replace this rifle for now. I'm going to keep it, but I'm going to take it off my ship. And then put this missile launcher in its place. So this is how the actual equipment system works. You have to physically put the weapon on your ship, which I like for 2 reasons. One, because they all look pretty cool, and it again comes into the art style being very nice looking, so actually adding things like this looks cool, and allows the epics and things to look different, which I like. And 2, strategy is kind of important, because now that they're making enemies with different like spawn locations, actually making them face in different directions is kind of important. For instance, those lightning guns actually are kind of like Tesla coils. They have very short ranges. So I actually had a lightning gun that was pointing kind of up at an angle to target enemies above me when I was down on the ground, shooting enemies on the ground, and things like that. It allows you to kind of strategize basically what's a build, essentially, for your Shmup ship, which is actually pretty rare in a shoot 'em up. You don't generally make a kind of build-oriented strategy. So I like that that you're able to do that in this game. It's pretty cool. So I'll also show you the upgrade system for the ship here now that I've got my ship all kitted out. If you go to the upgrades, you have various different things you can upgrade. You always have the auto gun on the end of your ship. It's just your basic, straightforward firing weapon. Very simple, not a lot of damage. But you can upgrade that to make it, you know, less awful, which is good. You also have your shield to increase the duration. You have luck, which is, again, that kind of magic find-like stat. Allows you to find better, higher rarity weapons. You have your HP bar, very self-explanatory, and the number of weapons you can have on your ship at any given time. And, of course, every time you purchase one of these, the next one gets more and more expensive, culminating in a very expensive investment for permanent boosts. Always nice to have that, to give that kind of sense of progression beyond just the loot system, which is a good combination to have. So we're going to go to level 23 and see what it's like. I definitely should crank up the difficulty because I'm destroying things, so I might do that actually. But yeah, the game goes on like this. Essentially, this is the gameplay loop, and if this looks interesting to you, then I've got to recommend it because it does what it does very well. As you can see, I'm pretty ridiculous now. I've got a 2-streamed flamethrower that can shoot out fireballs. I've got a 2-laser split beam, a cluster missile launcher, and a very powerful rapid-firing blaster. So the build I've gone for is basically like this full frontal assault, oh my god, kill everything in front of me as fast as possible kind of thing. And I really like that, actually. I think it's a lot of fun. Okay, now I'm seeing the things down here. They're actually boats. I can see them now. That's good. So, The customization is really the best part of this game by far. I really like the customization. It adds a lot. I love the fact that each weapon has its own set of stats that, well, I mean, the stats are the same, but what I mean is each weapon, the stats do different things. It makes the upgrading not boring at all, which it very much could have been just flat increases in the same things over and over, like goes farther, goes faster, does more damage. But there's actually a lot more to it than that, which is a very good way to do it, in my opinion. It keeps the interest up, it makes each weapon feel very unique, and it makes actually equipping them in different configurations and things feel like more than just, I want the weapon that does the most damage every time. More often than not, that's not necessarily what you want. You actually want them to do all kinds of other things, because there's a lot more interesting things they can do than just hit harder. Like having a split laser and a flamethrower that shoots fireballs and a cluster missile launcher, for instance. Those are pretty interesting things. And I would imagine on the very high difficulties, it's very important to have a good variety of weapons available to you to actually do different things and deal with different types of targets, because there is a good amount of enemy variety, and the enemies do appear in various kind of shmup-style formations and things to watch out for. The levels are very rapid fire, about 2 minutes each, so not a lot to worry about there. And although I don't know if maybe they last longer on higher difficulties, I should see. Ooh, I found an epic rifle. Okay, I've got to check that out. Hang on, Gatling rifle. Ooh. All right, let's salvage some stuff. Once you apply an upgrade to something, it's gone, by the way. If you salvage the item, you don't get the upgrades back. So that's definitely something to consider. Be careful about that. What if I was to replace... maybe I could replace the blaster with it? It is a nice blaster, but I'm not gonna salvage it, but I'll try the Gatling rifle. Let's upgrade it, of course. So it comes with a bunch of fire rate and a bunch of piercing, a 560% piercing, which is just ridiculous. So with that fire rate, extra projectiles is going to be very effective, so let's put one of those in there. What does special do for a rifle? Chance to do double damage. That sounds nice. With such a high fire rate, obviously like a high crit chance would be important. And let's see. To spawn another projectile on impact. Do I have any splitting? I do have one. Ooh, it's a level 4 one too. Sweet. 320% chance. So this is basically going to be a literal rain of bullets. Alright. Return, and let's slap this on my... Ooh, it looks way cooler than a normal rifle does. Alright, so we'll put it right in the middle here, because that seems nice. And we'll just have it face pretty much straight, because that makes sense for this. And here we go. Let us launch. And let's crank the difficulty up to skilled. This is probably a mistake, but we'll see. I do like the fact that there's a lot of difficulty levels as well. That's very important in a shmup, the replayability of the levels. And really, a lot of difficulty levels is enough for most people to actually find their replayability, but the fact that there's also a currency and loot system makes it unquestionably very replayable. Now, if I have any problems about the game right now, it is, one, that there's not enough sound effects. Now, I'm sure this is probably something they're going to add later, but the actual weapon firing sound effects, as you can see, my weapons are fairly quiet a lot of the time. Sometimes they make noise and sometimes they don't, so that's definitely something they should get on. It is, you know, the most satisfying to be able to fire cool sounding weapons as well as looking cool. That's obviously also important in a shmup, and would help with the customization, especially if epic weapons sounded a bit different than their non-epic counterparts. That would be pretty sweet. Oh god. We're gonna guard myself. Also, the difficulty levels don't look like they actually add more enemies into the equation. I'm not sure if they do or not. That might be something to look into, because that's, you know, something that a lot of shmups do, is to actually change the enemy patterns. But with this many difficulties, that would be a lot of work, so I don't know. This is a small team we're talking about here, you gotta remember. And really, that's, to be honest, pretty much the only problem I've actually got with the game. Even in its pre-release state, it is not buggy at all. I've only had it crash once, and even then it wasn't technically a crash per se, it just didn't get off the splash screen. That's only happened once. The game itself seems very stable. The only complaints I really have are that I'd like to see more sound effects for the weapons. Although maybe it would get annoying having a lot of weapons firing at once, I don't know. You know, I honestly don't really know about that. But other than that, I am very pleased with the game. Even in its early state, it is a very, very satisfying romp through these, these nice levels with a huge amount of replayability because of that loot and scoring system. And the very, very vast number of difficulty levels that is just a ridiculous number of them. So that wasn't too bad. I'm feeling like maybe I don't have the DPS to kill everything oh my god, a drone weapon? What? I need new weapon slots. I need to... Oh, and I found another... Oh my god. I need another weapon slot really bad. I love loot systems so much. I've actually never really played a shmup like this with a loot system this good, and there are very, very, very good examples, by the way, of games that are shoot-em-ups with good loot systems in them, like Raptor, Call of the Shadows, for instance. Very good. Right, so that's a nice missile launcher. It is not as good as mine, although mine is upgraded, but this doesn't have a lot going for it. Very high fire rate, but really not as important to me. Gotta be honest. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and salvage this, even though it served me very well. Drone Swarmer. So what kind of things do the stats do on this? Let's see, shots fired per second by a drone. A drone can split? Ooh. Yeah, that's pretty sweet. That's actually very nice. I need a new weapon slot. How much is that gonna cost me? Let's see. Weapon slots, 2,400. I can afford that after one more mission, probably. So, let's maybe go down to experienced. No, let's keep it at skilled. What the heck? What the heck? Alright. If this gameplay loop interests you, I would definitely have to recommend it. So, as I've said, they are aiming for an August release for this. And by the looks of it, it will probably be done by then because it's got a lot of content already and it seems quite nicely polished at this stage. I would say that I wouldn't really worry about things like frame rate or bugginess. All of that, in my experience so far, has been very much on par. The graphics options are pretty basic. There's not a whole lot, but it is a 2D side-scrolling game. You don't necessarily need a huge amount of graphics options in a game like that. And like I said, the game does look very good. Its graphic style is extremely nice. Really good use of color and particle effects, and just general design of the enemies and the bosses and your ship and the weapons. It's all very cool. Like I said, the complaint of the sound assets is pretty much the only one I've got, and other than that, it seems very much on board. The game is looking like something that a lot of people should enjoy. I like shoot-em-ups quite a bit. I'm actually a really big fan of the Toho games, to be honest, but this is obviously not a bullet hell shmup, although it does get pretty intense in the boss battles. But if this is something that would interest you, I really recommend it. It is very smooth, very solid gameplay, and the variety and customization is surprisingly in-depth and really quite exciting to actually take part in. You just want to do that another level to get another set of upgrades for your weapons to see how more ridiculous you can make them and what else you can find. And also, seeing the next boss is nice. Also, I'm also about to die, so let's try not to die. Obviously, the extra difficulty level upgrade is something I maybe should have taken a bit slower. But hey, playing while talking. I died. But I did get a lot of scrap, so... Well, not a lot, but enough. So, to close off the video, I'm going to show you the new beautiful weapon. Of course, upgrades. No. Weapon slots, yes. Can I actually get another one? I can. Jeez, I wonder how many weapon slots you can have. More than enough, by the looks of it. So hopefully there is even more weapons to discover in the game. Hopefully there is a good variety of epics, and what else would I like to see from the game? Really, it would come down to something like Modding support, maybe? The ability to add new levels and weapons especially would be pretty sweet. I don't know if that's something they plan on or something they can really do. Obviously, I don't want to suggest something that is out of the reach of their current ideas or engine. But it would be nice to see, of course. Let's put a high-ranking special upgrade on this. Yeah, that costs everything I had, really, so I can't upgrade it anymore right now. That's okay. You can obviously go back and upgrade. You can still upgrade things once they're equipped. Let's equip it. Let's put it like over down here-ish. On the wing. Boop. And aim it up a bit. So they kind of shoot up. Alright, and let's see what this is like. So yeah, this is Rain of Bullets, everyone. If this is something that looks interesting to you, highly recommended. If you like shmups, recommended. If you like loot, recommended. It combines a lot of things that I like, and actually does them together very, very well. So this is a very good effort from Critical Bit, and if this is the kind of stuff that they're going to be putting out, then I have a lot of faith in their future endeavors, because this is good, and they are definitely a team that I'm going to keep my eye on, because this shows great potential for cool stuff. It shows great potential from their art design and great potential from their game design standpoint of knowing what makes a very good kind of game. Loot, for me, pretty much always needed. I see how the drones work. You actually can spam these things out and they kind of fire as they get close to something, it looks like. It might actually be worth having that thing pointing upwards even more so they stay on screen longer and actually are able to shoot more at the enemy. Interesting. So yeah, as you can see they're again coming into the kind of strategy with the facings of your guns and things like that. Very cool. I think they've done an excellent job. They could have very easily made the loot system kind of superfluous or almost boring in its upgrades and stuff like that, but with the variety in stats that actually do different things to each weapon, I can't help but adore it, really. So yeah, Rain of Bullets, folks. If you want to check it out, I will link you to the developer's website in the description. It is going to be available on Steam fairly soon, and again, they are aiming for an August release for this. I expect it will probably be pretty much done by then. It's looking nicely polished. A shmup with a loot system and great customization. If any of that sounds good to you, give it a shot. Thanks, oh god, very much for watching, everyone. And I'll see you next time. Let's just close out since we're so close to the end of this particular run, now that I'm not dying horrendously. Use your shield, use your shield. There we go. And the screen is filled with bullets. Just what you want in a shmup, really, especially bullets of your own making. There we go. Rain of Bullets, folks. Thanks for watching. Comments, feel free to leave them. Questions, feel free to ask them. I will respond. I'll see you guys next time.